Everybody, and welcome to our very first Twitch live stream for our intro psych classes that started just a couple of days ago on Monday. This is Twitch if you've never been on here before, and my name is Elisa Setmire and I am your instructor. So the chat is the way that you communicate with me during this. If you have any questions or thoughts or anything, you can put them in the chat, and I'm monitoring that, and that can be how you communicate with me during our live streams. But thank you so much for those of you who are joining me live or even watching this later as a recording. I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of go through the class and the components and how everything is set up. Make sure that everyone is feeling good about how everything is organized. This is a wonderful opportunity. If you are confused about something or have any questions, you can ask me as we go along. So again, welcome. I'm glad to have you here with me. Let's go ahead and jump over to our Canvas page. And again, what I want to do is kind of highlight some of the things on the Canvas page. I'll show you the ebook. We'll talk about this week's materials. Normally these live streams will only be about maybe like 20 to 30 minutes. This one will be a little longer just because it is the first week. But if you need to go at any time, it will be recorded and you can obviously watch it later. So if you've made it here, this is what our course website looks like. If you can get to this point, you should be in really good shape. You can see on this page, there's a little start here with some mandatory orientation, instructor contact, help and campus resources, course documents and videos, and then 8 weeks worth of content. So everything is organized under its respective folders. You can also get there by clicking on like the modules and grades and announcements over here on the left. But these little pages here on the front page, I think are really, really handy. So what I want to do is kind of show you the orientation quiz and the modules and talk about how the class is set up. So let's start by looking at the syllabus. And I'm not going to go over everything on it, so definitely read through this later on your own. But I do want to make sure you know what to expect. And you can find the syllabus right here, right at the top. And you'll notice this class is 70217. I have 2 classes that are going at the same time. So if that isn't your number, that's okay. There are 2 sections that are the exact same, these 2 right here. So again, my name is Elisa Setmire. You can call me Elisa. You can call me Professor Setmire. Most people just call me Setmire, and that's totally fine. I've given you my email, my office location, my phone number. I'm really good at checking my email, not so great at returning phone calls. So if you do need anything or have any questions or concerns, email is always going to be the fastest way to get a hold of me. I do have office hours on campus. If you ever want to meet with me or schedule a Zoom, we can always arrange that. I've given you some contact information for our administration, a description and objectives and outcomes that I'm going to let you look over on your own. There is a required textbook for this class, and I know that money is usually challenging, and I know that textbooks are really expensive, but you do need this book in order to pass the class. And on the plus side, I mean, most average intro psych books are like $250, $280, $300. Our textbook is only $87, which is definitely very, very reasonable. So if you haven't purchased this yet, you are going to need to get it ASAP, as the first thing is due tonight, and that is in this ebook. So please make sure that you purchase it. There's all the information on where to find that here under announcements. There was an announcement that went out about it, and I'll show you again later where you can find that. But make sure that you get the book. You're also going to want the Canvas app and maybe even the Twitch app. I do use a lot of YouTube and Twitch and obviously Canvas. So having those things at your disposal might make your life a little bit simpler. And then you'll need access to a computer with internet. Other than that, those are just kind of the basic things that you'll need. I put some codes of conduct and policies. I know that we never meet in person, but I do want this to be a very inclusive, safe environment. We'll be doing a lot of discussions. We have these Twitch live streams. And so I want you to feel comfortable and safe communicating. So let's always be really mindful of each other and the things that we're saying and doing on here. I have some stuff here about late work and late materials. And I want to stress this now, and I'll remind you as we get closer to our first deadline, but it's really important to me that you try and meet deadlines. And I feel like part of my job as an instructor is to also help encourage time management and accountability. So I'm really big on deadlines. And I'm just putting that out there to tell you now. The way the class is set up is that you have access to 2 weeks of material at a time. So, for example, right now you can access all of week 1 and all of week 2, and you can complete those things at any point during those 2 weeks. But once the deadline passes, it's too late to turn anything in. If you email me at 12:01 a.m. After the deadline, it's going to be too late. So if something comes up, if you have an emergency, if you have something that comes up and it makes it hard for you, as long as you reach out to me to make arrangements before the deadline, I am more than happy to work with you. If you reach out to me even 1 minute after, I won't. So that's kind of my one hard rule. I'm incredibly flexible and I'm happy to help and work with you as long as you reach out to me before the deadline. So just please keep that in mind as we get closer to like the end of the first 2 weeks. Please don't copy or cheat. Give me all your own beautiful creative work. There's some stuff about smoking and Title IX on the campus. So I'll let you look that over. The things that will make up your grade. So you have a mandatory orientation, and that is the first requirement that's due for this class. It's actually due by tonight at 11:59 p.m. It's on the ebook site, and I will show you that and what it looks like a little later. But that is your first 10 points, so please make sure you do that. If you do not complete this, you'll get a drop warning from me tomorrow. And if I haven't heard back from you, you will be dropped on Friday. So please make sure to do this if you'd like to stay in the class. It's my way of making sure you have the book and that you're going. A big part of your grade is made up of discussions, or you could think about them as like little mini papers. Every week you'll do 2 discussions based on the reading and the materials for that week. We'll take a look at our first ones in a little bit. You'll do a couple of little self-assessments, kind of checking in with you throughout the class to see how you're doing and how your progress is going. You'll have a closing assignment during the last week, and then you'll take 4 exams, each worth 75 points. So the exams and the discussions are your biggest sources of points in the class. All the exams are on the ebook site, so again, really important to have that. The discussions will be here on Canvas, and we'll take a look at both of those in a few minutes. I put a distribution for your grades right here. Everything's just based on points, so you can see how many points you need to get the grade that you're hoping for. If you have a memo with access, please make sure you get that to me as soon as you can. Your potential for success in the class is really important to me, so if you have established accommodations, make sure you get them to me so I can get you all set up. There's some other links on here about student tech support, college information, such as like the student services and important dates, if you'd like to look those over. And then what you'll see after that is just our schedule for the class. And as I mentioned, you have access to 2 weeks of materials at a time. So right now we're in weeks 1 and 2, and everything from weeks 1 and 2 is due by Sunday, October 20th at 11:59 p.m. with the exception of that mandatory orientation quiz, which is due tonight. So what you can see is how every week, every 2 weeks, we kind of follow the same format. You have 4 chapters, 4 discussions, and an exam, and then sometimes a little self-assessment or like a closing assignment. So very similar. I'm big on consistency. I've been teaching online for a long time, and having that consistency I think is really, really helpful. Our final day of class does end on a Friday. If you want to note that somewhere right now, our class ends on December 6th, which is a Friday. Otherwise, everything will be Sundays for our normal deadlines. So I didn't go through everything on the syllabus, so definitely make sure you look it over, but I do think I kind of highlighted all of the important things. I sent out a little welcome letter by email last week, and I copied that here in case you need it. And then here's the information about the textbook. I also sent out an announcement, but you can click on the link that's in here, right here, the purchase link. The book is an electronic book, an ebook. And if you notice, I did write it. So it is a book that I wrote. It's very directly connected to everything we're covering. And on the plus side, that allowed me to keep the price very low for you. As I said, the average book is usually like $250, $280. Ours is $87. So make sure that you get this and get it registered ASAP, as you do definitely need to finish that by tonight, that first requirement. So there's the textbook information. There's some stuff here about purchasing, registering, and accessing the book. I gave you a little video overview in case you need it. Lots of help and campus resources I also have posted for you. I put together a list of like frequently asked questions just in case you're confused about something. It's probably in here, or you could watch the video. There's a little student lounge where you can talk to each other. So this is a discussion board where if you'd like to kind of bounce ideas off of each other, that's something that you can utilize and do. I have some help here about subscribing and finding me on Twitch and YouTube. As I mentioned, I'm really big on those platforms. I'll talk more about that later. Some technology help, Canvas help, how to find your grades, college services, and psych major information. So these first two modules are kind of getting you set up, making sure you have access to all the resources that you might need, and getting organized. Once you have gone through all of that, including the syllabus, then you can start on the mandatory orientation materials and then jump into weeks 1 and 2, which are open for you. So let's take a look at the mandatory orientation lecture and quiz and ebook and stuff together. And again, this will be the longest one of these streams, so just kind of making sure that you're feeling good about everything. And does anyone have any questions so far? If you do, feel free to put them in the chat. If not, I'll keep going, but I'll wait a few seconds just to see. And I am at home, so I can't promise that we won't have cats that come into our live stream. If they come anywhere near me, I will grab them, but they're keeping their distance for now. They're smart, they know better. So I don't see any questions so far, but if you think of anything, put it in the chat. So the mandatory orientation lecture is a little lecture that I put together just to kind of orient you to the class, the format of the class, myself, some technology stuff. And what I want you to notice is it has this little 5-tab format at the top. So there's 5 different pages to this. Our lectures follow the same style and format, so make sure that you're clicking on all 5 pages. You'll also notice there is an audio file at the top. If you would rather listen to me reading it to you, that is available, or you can read it yourself. So make sure that you read or listen to the 5 pages that are here. You're going to read through the syllabus that we looked at quickly together. And then you'll complete the mandatory orientation quiz on the ebook site. We'll look at that in a minute. I also want you to find me on Twitch and YouTube. And so I mentioned this before, but if you could find me on YouTube, that one's easy. I think most people are familiar with YouTube. Just find me on there and hit subscribe. That way, if I post videos, which I do often, you'll be able to access them really easily. You'll even get alerts if I post something if you want them. That one I think is simple. The one that sometimes gives people a little bit of trouble is Twitch. And I was trying to do something a little more fun and interactive rather than just like a Zoom meeting. But with Twitch, I'll be using that every week for our live streams. And I would really like to ask you to subscribe on Twitch. And there's a way to do this for free. I'd rather you not pay for it if you don't have to. But subscribing on Twitch has a lot of benefits. The biggest one is you will only have a little bit of an ad at the beginning. And then you shouldn't have any other ads. You get notifications of when I'm online, so you won't ever miss my streams. And then when you subscribe, selfishly, it makes it very easy for me to track your attendance. Otherwise, I have to go through and like match your name with your subscriber name, and it's a pain. So if you're subscribed, that really helps me. It also gives the ability for you to have a little football cake next to your name. And probably the biggest benefit to you is if you can't make these live streams live and you watch them later, if you are subscribed, you can still get the extra credit points for answering the question on Canvas. So I have a whole page here that walks you through step-by-step how to subscribe on Twitch for free. And there's even a video on there. So if you want to take a minute now or later to do that, I would really appreciate it. Again, selfishly, it saves me a ton of time. So please, if you have the ability to do that, I really appreciate it. So make sure you do all of those things. The way that the course is organized is kind of highlighted here on the next one. Look, somebody just figured out. Thank you for doing that. And again, with Prime, it's completely free to do. It only lasts for 30 days, but since the class is only 8 weeks, you just have to renew it once. So that's fantastic. So the way the course is organized is every week you'll have 2 chapters to read in the textbook. There'll be 2 lectures and 2 lecture videos. So kind of 3 things for every chapter. You'll read it in the book, you'll read through the lecture, and you'll watch the lecture video. You'll also have 2 discussions each week, and then there'll be an exam every 2 weeks on those chapters that we've covered. You'll have a couple of little self-assessments. There'll be a closing assignment. And as I mentioned, the class is organized around these 2-week chunks of time. So you'll have from the beginning of 1 week to the end of the second week to turn all of that in whenever it works for you. So if you know you're going to have a really busy week next week, get everything done this week and vice versa. But please be mindful of those deadlines, as again, once they pass, it is too late to turn anything in. I gave you a little bit about myself, just so you knew the person teaching the class. As I said, my name is Elisa Setmire. You can call me Elisa, you can call me Setmire or Professor Setmire. I'm a huge football fan. I was a big Tom Brady fan for years, and now that he's retired, I just kind of like a bunch of players like Mahomes and Cooper Kupp and a few others. But I'm a big football fan. I'm a huge fan of escape rooms. I've done over 100 of them. I love the holidays. I have 3 kids and I have 5 cats and a dog that might sometimes make their way into our live streams. But I just wanted to give you a little bit about myself. I have some other things in here like my shows that I like and so on, just so that you know the person who is teaching the course. I give you a little bit about computer and internet settings. If you're struggling or having issues, some of these things might be helpful. Otherwise, you could skip this page. And then the last page, I gave you some areas for help. So if you're struggling with Canvas, here's a phone number that you can reach out to. If you're having a hard time with your ordering of the ebook, here's a phone number and an email. Once you've purchased the book, if you run into issues at any point, there is an email that you can reach out to for help from them. I did write the book, but they're in charge of everything. I don't have any control over it other than setting the initial dates and things. Oh, no worries. I'm glad you joined us, even if you were late. It's totally fine. And I put this on here as well. If you're ever confused or lost or in doubt, you can always reach out to me. I check my email frequently. I'm here for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. But make sure you look over all of the resources that I've posted for you here on Canvas. So once you have read through the syllabus, you've looked all that over, you've read through the orientation, you've found me on Twitch and YouTube and subscribed. The only other thing to do then is get your book and take that quiz on the ebook site. So let's go take a look at the ebook together so you can see what that looks like. And this is the home page for the ebook. And again, it's called Psyched. You'll notice that I wrote it. My name's underneath it. And there's a little video here if you want a video overview. But up here at the top right, you can see there's chapters, additional resources, exams, and a little temporary grade book. So the chapters, this is where you'll find all the chapters that we're going to be covering. And so you can see 1 through 16. So for example, let's click on chapter 2. Right? And this is what you'll be reading when we get to chapter 2. And it starts with an outline and then objectives and then a summary followed by the chapter. And so you got lots of pictures and examples, some little boxes. There's apply it things that are in here. I end every chapter with some pop culture suggestions from YouTube or shows and things that are relevant to what we're covering. There's always a little video that I made on YouTube as well, and then some application. And at the very bottom, you can find all the key terms from the chapter. So make sure that as we're going through, you are reading these chapters, click on any links I give you, explore all that content. Everything I give you together will hopefully help you to understand. The other things that are on here, obviously the exams. So the mandatory orientation quiz, all of your exams in this class are on this website. And what you'll see is when you click on them, you have the instructions followed by the spot where you can begin your attempt. So this mandatory orientation quiz is due by tonight at 11:59 p.m. So if you have not completed it, make sure that you get your book, register it, and get going as soon as possible. You'll see with each exam or quiz that you take, you have a certain amount of time. So with this one, you have 15 minutes. And once that time is up, it will end your attempt. So just always be mindful of the clock. You always only get one attempt, so be ready and organized before you begin. You can always use your notes and your book and anything at your disposal. But I would definitely encourage you, and we'll talk more about this next week, to study for exams. If you're trying to look everything up, you will definitely run out of time. The other big thing is you have to save your responses. So let's take a look at the mandatory orientation quiz. Once you've read through it and you're ready, you'll click on Begin Your Attempt. And that's going to bring up the quiz. So this is what the quiz looks like. You'll notice there's a little clock up here that's going to start counting down. You have 15 minutes. There are 10 questions, so here's the little list of them. And let's say you don't know the answer to number one. You can always skip it. You can skip to the next question if you wanted to. So for example, the ebook and all quizzes exams for our course can be found on an external site, right? And then you hit save answer, right? And it's going to turn like an orange or gold color. Our weeks begin on Monday and end Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. except the final week, right? And then you'll hit save answer. So make sure that every single one is that orange or like gold color. And once you're ready, you'll hit I am finished, submit for a grade. And so it'll give you a score right away. I got a shameful 2 out of 10, but I did only attempt 2, so I think I did okay. But it will give you the correct answers. I want to point out that your score does not come over to Canvas automatically. So if you don't see a score in Canvas after you take it, that's completely normal. Once the deadline has passed, I will go through and bring those scores over, but they don't come over on their own. So just something to keep in mind. And then when we're ready for like the exams 1 through 4 are on here as well. We'll talk about exam 1 next week, but they are here in case you need them. The other thing that's on here, there is a little like additional resources tab up at the right. And this one has some things like flashcards, some little test yourself activities that I put together, PowerPoints in case that's helpful for you, some examples of other things that some of these you would use if you were taking this with me in person. But there are a few things on here that might be helpful if you want to play around with them. The big stuff on here is really the chapters and the exams. So again, if you haven't purchased this, make sure that you do that right away. If you're on Canvas, it's right here, right? Textbook information just underneath the syllabus. And you can click on that link and then there's a link here to go purchase it. And then you just have to register it and make sure you register to our section. So if you're in 70217, pick that one. If you're in the other section, pick that one. So a big thing, get that done today. Get that ebook registered, purchased, do that mandatory orientation quiz. And once you've finished all of that, there's a little introductions discussion, and then you can start week number 1. So we'll talk about week 1 today, since that's where we're at. Next week, we'll talk about week 2 and the first exam and all of that kind of stuff. And I know I've been talking a ton. It's been like a good 30 minutes of me talking. But any questions at the moment about the ebook, the mandatory orientation quiz, any of the stuff that we've covered so far before we jump into week number 1? I'm going to wait just a minute. And again, yeah, no worries. If you're joining late, that's okay. I know a lot of you have classes. I'm also at a little bit different time today than normal. My kids got out early today, so I had to kind of adjust. But normally we will have kind of a consistent time if possible. How many days in a week will we have this class? So you have access to all of the materials for the first 2 weeks right now. So you can complete them all in one day. You can spread them out over the 2 weeks. It's totally up to you. I'm going to hold one live stream each week. And again, they're optional. So if you can't make these live, that's okay. They will always be recorded. And you can watch them later as a recording if you would like. So technically, we just have this one live meeting and it's optional. Everything otherwise is kind of on your own, working through the materials before the deadline. So for example, we start week 1 and 2. So you'll notice weeks 1 and 2 are open for you. But since we're in week 1, I'm going to focus on week number 1. And then next week in our live stream, I'll focus on week 2. So every week you have 2 chapters. So this week is chapter 1 and chapter 2. And for each chapter, remember, you want to do 3 things. 1, you want to read the chapter in the ebook. 2, you want to read through the lecture. And 3, you want to watch the lecture video. The lectures follow the same format as that mandatory orientation one where there's like these 5 tabs at the top. The first page is always objectives and summary with the audio, of course, if you want it. The second page beyond the book. So I have a few videos on here that might be helpful. If I give you a video, watch it. If I give you a link, click on it. All that stuff is going to help you. The third page is in pop culture, so some popular culture connections. The fourth page are key terms. These are the terms from this chapter that you need to know for the exam. And then the last page will always be application. Now that you've read through it, how could you apply it to your life in some way? So again, make sure you click on all the links, explore any videos, but read through the lecture for every chapter. And then you'll also want to watch the lecture video. And the lecture video is me lecturing to PowerPoint slides like you were taking it with me in person. Okay, so those are some of the things for week one. Sorry, a couple of questions here. Every live stream will have an extra credit option with it. So if you join me live, you can put your name in the chat. And then every week I'll give you an extra credit question that you can answer under that week. And I'll show you that in a little bit. If you're watching this later as a recording, if you are subscribed on Twitch, you can still answer the question for extra credit. If you're not subscribed, I have no way to monitor that you were there. So that's, again, another benefit to subscribing. And you can find the instructions for subscribing up here on that page that I showed you earlier. So typically the live streams will not be at this time. This one was a little bit later. Our live streams will normally be in the like 11:30, 11:45, 12 o'clock range, somewhere between 11:30 and 12, depending on the week. And you can always find that out if you're on the home page. If you look at the calendar, I have them all scheduled in the calendar. That is right here. So view course calendar. And in every announcement that I send out for the first week, I let you know. So for example, this one, I have weeks 1 and 2. When that went out, it told you right here that we'll have our live stream at 1:15. So I will announce it every week, and it'll be roughly between like 11:30 and 12 or whatnot. So you can see most of them are at that time. Okay. Thank you for asking questions. I love that. I appreciate that you're asking them, so I have a chance to go over that with you. So again, back to week 1. So for week number 1, make sure you read the chapter, read the lecture, watch the video. Same thing for chapter 2. Then you'll notice you have 2 discussions, which you have 2 of every week. And then there'll be an optional extra credit, which I'll give you in a little bit, and I'll show you how to answer that. And then there'll always be a recording of this lecture. So when it's done, I will start an upload, download process, and I'll always post it here for you. But let's take a look at the discussions, because that's the other component that you have due this week, once you've done that mandatory orientation quiz and gotten your book. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm really big on consistency. So what you'll see here is I have my instructions and then a video and then the prompt. And you'll find that every single discussion, the instructions are always the same. There's a video of me kind of highlighting and describing it, and then the prompt below. So consistency to try and help. If you are waitlisted, send me an email and I can send you an ad code. Right? So if you're waitlisted, Ivan, send me an email today and I'll send you a code so that you can get enrolled. So what you want to do for these discussions, watch my video. Some of them are older than others, but watch my little bit of a video. And then I want you to answer the questions below. And think about these as like mini papers. You really want to show off and elaborate on your knowledge and understanding. Show me that you get it, that you can apply it. You're also going to be reading through 5 or more of your classmates' responses and replying to one of them. So the discussions in total are worth 15 points, 13 points for your responses to my questions, and then 2 points for your responses to a classmate. If you want to see a sample of what I'm looking for, I did post that here. It's on every single discussion. But here are the questions. So these are the questions for week number 1. And when you're ready, you'll hit reply. And that is how you will post your response. So this first one is all about chapter 1. They're always going to correlate to their chapter. And so this one, before starting the class, what did you think of when someone mentioned the word psychology? In other words, what notions or stereotypes about the field and the people who work in it did you have? Several subfields were mentioned in the book and lecture. Briefly describe one of them and give an example of a career within that field. You can use any of the ones described in the book or even not in the book if you want. And then the biggest question here, nurture works on what nature endows. Define nature, define nurture, and describe what you think they mean using your own words. So once you've read chapter 1 and you're feeling ready to do this, you hit reply and then you can post your responses. And again, I would really encourage you to elaborate. better to give me more than not enough. You don't want to be consistently losing points for not giving me enough information. And then don't forget to also reply to a classmate. So let's say that I really like what Emma had to say. I could click right here and reply. I really like what Madison had to say. I could reply. And you only need to reply to one person to get those 2 points. So that's discussion number 1. You also have discussion 2. So if you click on that, you'll see same format, right? You have my instructions, my video, and then the prompt, right? And when you're ready, you'll hit reply. So same style and format every time. I think it is, yeah, it's better to give me more, right? I think it would be better to give me more than less, especially as you're trying to figure out kind of what that grading looks like. So after the first 2 weeks, I will grade all of the discussions. And then at that point, you might have a better idea of feedback. As I mentioned, with every discussion, I did give you a sample. So if you'd like to kind of see what I'm expecting, there is a little sample page and a rubric where I gave you some tips and suggestions for how to earn points. But think about them as mini papers if that helps you, and give me enough. Make sure you're really elaborating. So for this week, chapters 1 and 2, discussions 1 and 2, and then obviously the things like the orientation quiz and discussion that we had up here that we talked a little bit about. Every week, like I said, I will post a recording. So it'll be a couple of hours before this is up, but I will have a recording up here later today. So if you missed this, you can watch it that way, or if you want to go back and watch it again. I will always give you some reminders and an extra credit question. And I'm going to do that here in just a moment. But I just want to say, again, really quickly, what will happen is after these first 2 weeks are over, I will grade all of the materials on that Monday following the end of the 2 weeks. I'll post your grades, and then I'll go over those grades a little bit with you on that live stream. Yeah, so the ebooks, no. So the ebook, unfortunately, every single copy of it comes with your own access code. So there isn't a copy that everyone could use and look at. Because you're taking your exams on there, it has to be registered to you specifically. So unfortunately, you have to purchase the book. And as I mentioned, I know books are expensive, but this one's really, really affordable compared to what the typical ebook or typical psych book would be for an intro psych class. Anyone that I have for you. So if there's a video in here, in the lecture, take notes on it. If you're watching the lecture video of me lecturing to slides, take notes on it. And what you could consider doing is you always have a study guide for the exam. And so you would definitely want to pay closer attention to anything that's on the study guide. And as I mentioned, we'll talk about that more next week. We'll talk about exam number 1 next week, since it's housed under week number 2. Okay. So a couple of reminders for you, and I'm going to post these in the chat. So reminder 1, please take a moment today, tomorrow, sometime soon, figure out the subscription piece on Twitch and YouTube. Again, I'm going to be using those things a lot. If you can figure that out, that would be fantastic, not only for you, but also it helps me and saves me a lot of time as well. The other reminder that I have for you, our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, October 16th at 11:30 a.m. All right, I'm going to put that in the chat here. Sorry, I thought I was recording. I wasn't. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, October 16th at 11:30 a.m. And as I mentioned earlier, our live streams will typically be at like 11:30, 11:45, or 12 o'clock, depending on my schedule for that day, somewhere in that half-hour range. And they'll typically last like 20 to 30 minutes, much shorter than this one. We were going through everything for the class, so I wanted to make sure you were feeling good. The last thing I will do after I give you reminders is I will give you that extra credit question. So let me post that for you here and then show you how you can answer that to get points. So in order to get points, you join me live and then answer the question, or you're watching this later and you're subscribed and you answer the question. So kind of 2 pieces to it. And this is the week number 1. I'm going to put this in the chat. Week number 1 Twitch extra credit question. And the question for this week: what does the phrase correlation versus causation mean? Describe and give an example. So what does the phrase correlation versus causation mean? Describe and give an example. So you'll be able to do this hopefully after you have read chapter 2. Once you're feeling ready, what you'll do is you'll go to this week, because that's the extra credit 1 question. So you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 1 under week 1. And when you click on that, it's going to bring up some instructions. It'll remind you what you need to do to get credit. And then there's a button up here at the top right that says Start Assignment. When you click on that, it brings up a box. And in this box is where you will type your response. Okay, so you're going to answer the question that I gave you this week about correlation and causation. And once you have your response typed out, you'll hit Submit. And that's going to give you an instant little confetti burst and fire flames, little flames this week. It's different every time. And I grade these kind of throughout the week. If you get it wrong, I oftentimes grade them early enough that you can try again. Just make sure that you're always paying attention to which class. If you're watching this as a recording, make sure you watch our class, not my research methods or human sexuality or one of the other ones. And so you can do these every single week. They are worth 2 points. Those 2 points add up to 16 points in total, which would make up for a missed discussion, maybe a lower exam score. They're definitely going to be really helpful for you. So I think it's wonderful if you can take advantage of it. And again, if you can't make it live, you can still answer the question for extra credit as long as you're subscribed on Twitch. So just take a few minutes to figure that out sometime today, and hopefully that will be helpful. So again, big reminders for now. Make sure you purchase your ebook, get it registered and ready to go. Register it to the section you're enrolled in. Complete that mandatory orientation quiz. It's due by tonight, so get that done by 11:59 p.m. tonight. Do the introductions discussion and then jump into week number 1. When I see you next week, we'll go over everything from week 2, chapters 3, 4, discussions 3, 4, and the first exam. And you'll see again, I follow that similar format every single week. So if it's under this week, make sure it's done, or next week. Again, you have access to 2 weeks at a time. There are instructions, step-by-step instructions how to do that right here. Right, so here's the textbook information, and then here's how to purchase, register, and access your ebook. When you purchase it, you'll get an email with a registration code and instructions on how to register the book. So just follow the instructions after you purchase it. It's pretty like common sense, and hopefully you'll be all set to go. Okay, so what I will typically do is once I'm done with what I had to share with you, I will hang out for a few minutes. If you do have any questions for me, this is a wonderful time to ask them. You can put them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer it for you. If you don't have any questions, you're welcome to go. Just make sure that you get yourself registered, get your book, get your orientation quiz done, as again, those things are due by tonight. So I'll hang out for a few minutes. Thank you again so much for all of you who joined me live. I'm going to put thank you in the chat. And if you are watching this later, thank you for that as well. I hope you all have a wonderful week. And again, I will hang out. I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself, but I will hang out for a little while. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them into the chat. Otherwise, you're welcome to get started. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And then don't forget to send me an email if you're trying to add. If you're on the wait list, I'd be happy to send you the ad code. Yeah, thank you as well. Thank you all for joining me. And as I mentioned, I will hang out for a few more minutes before I close this up. That way, if you do have any questions, you can just put them in the chat. Yeah, definitely. So as you're reading the textbook, I would take notes on it. If you look at the study guide, it will tell you what terms you need to know from each chapter. And so not a bad idea to really focus on those. My cats didn't make it into the live stream, but they are talking in the background, so almost like you get to see them. Maybe they'll come in next week. You too. Have a wonderful day. And I am still here. I minimized my video, but I am still here if you have any questions. I'm not sure why it wouldn't let you purchase it. If you click on the link in either modules, so if you go to modules and you click on textbook information, there's a little link right here where it says ebook purchase link, and that's where you would click. And then it should just be that you add it to the cart and you purchase it. You can also buy it at the bookstore, but I think it's much easier to purchase it online as they give you that access code right away. So it should let you purchase it without a problem. Of the like 100 people who are in the two sections of the class, about 80 something of you have already purchased and registered it. So I know that it's working. So maybe try it on a different browser or follow that link and you just add it to cart and purchase, and it should go through just fine. That's strange. So I just clicked on it right here, right? Like, so if you go to modules and then you click right here on textbook information. And then when you click the purchase link that's right here, it takes you right to it. So I'll put it in the chat for you just in case maybe getting there a different way is helpful. But yeah, it seems to be working just fine on my end. So you could always try a different browser. Maybe it's something with your internet connection. It's hard to say. But yeah, we just walked right through it. It seems to be working just fine. Okay, good, great. Who knows? Sometimes accessing it in a different way can make it work for whatever reason, right? Glad that one worked. Of course, you're welcome. All right, so it looks like the vast majority of you have logged off. So I'm going to close this up so I can start the upload and download of the video. If you think of any questions later, of course, feel free to email me. And again, thank you so much for joining me today.